Welcome to the Real Film Nerds Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Real Film Nerds. I'm your host, Mike Talent, and this is episode number 132. And with me, as always, is Matt.
Hiya, Georgie.
And if you can't tell from Matt's Hiya, Georgie, this is a review on It Chapter 2. And it's kind of a review on It Chapter 1 because we didn't have the podcast before that, but we're going to kind of have to talk about it. So, anyway, get ready for a exciting review about It.
Well, Mike, you know the original It has a lot more significance than you probably know.
Oh, yeah? What is that?
The original It I went and saw with the first co-host, Seth Marquardt. And afterwards, we decided, a few days afterwards at work when we were talking, that we should try and start a podcast and it might be fun. So the original chapter, kind of almost inspired doing a podcast.
No way. I actually did not know that. That's the first time I've heard that story. That's cool, man.
And the reason why it inspired the Real Film Nerds podcast is because Seth is not a horror movie person. He didn't even realize it was a horror movie, let alone how brutal it was.
Oh, man. Well, I guess the first few minutes of It Chapter 1 let you know what's going to go on for the rest of the movie, that's for sure.
Right, and it was one of the most fun times I've ever had at the movie theater. I went with Seth and my boss, Brad Bergamini. For those of you who do not know and want to buy or sell a house, go to thebergaminigroup.com. Anyways, we went and saw It Chapter 2, the three of us together, and right after that first scene, spoilers for the first It, where Georgie gets his arm bitten off by It, Seth screams at the top of his lungs, "Mother of God," in the theater. And from then on, I was just laughing throughout the entire movie because of Seth's reactions. It was amazing.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun, man. That sounds like a lot of fun.
So that's how it inspired Seth and I eventually, months later, starting the podcast. Granted, he only sat down and recorded a couple of episodes. He literally was on the podcast for one day pretty much, and that was it. But it inspired this little thing that you and I are still doing to this day. So one of these days, I guess we probably should sit down and do the original It. But until then, we're going to do the second one. Now, Mike, why are we reviewing so many horror movies? Are there just a lot coming out, or are there just a lot of really good ones, or what's going on here?
Well, I think we're getting into the fall season, and the first It movie, or the first It remake that came out in 2017, did gangbusters at the box office, so they obviously had to complete the story, and they wanted to do another one, and this is the completion of that. And I think it's just we're getting towards the fall season and Halloween and all that stuff, and even our Harvest Harvest Horror Fest will be starting up here soon. But the I guess the real indicator of when fall happens is Starbucks released the pumpkin spice latte, so we now are in fall.
Well, but, okay, Mike, so we're on episode 132, all right? Doing It Chapter 2. Episode 130 was Ready or Not, which was a horror movie technically, but it was more of a horror comedy. Okay, and then we had Revenge after that, which was not a horror movie. And then before that, episode 128 was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, another horror movie.
I think it's just slow season, honestly. I don't know. I guess, Matt, we could have watched a couple different movies here and there, but I mean, we just, watched Good Boys, and, so, I don't know. There's different stuff coming out.
And then episode 123, granted this is going back to July, was Midsummer. So do you think it's the industry, Or do you think you and I are just doing more horror movies? Because I don't know. I think personally, I think it's the industry. I think horror movies are just getting more mainstream and better acting and better writers and better directors.
I think it's kind of a twofold thing. Horror movies traditionally are cheaper to make, so I feel like that's often why they're available all year. I love watching horror movies, Matt, as we've talked about many times. But I do think that maybe some of these last ones have been really good and like put more into it than maybe your traditional just slasher or jump scare kind of movie. And there have been some of these here and there throughout the last few years, and I highlighted a bunch in Midsummer review. And but it's I really do think they're profitable. They are very profitable, and they're I think some of them are kind of fun to make, and I don't know. It's hard to say. I definitely feel like fall is more front-loaded with a bunch of them, but they kind of sprinkle them out throughout. I know this coming Christmas, I just saw a trailer for it on It Chapter 2 for Black Christmas. I've seen 2 Black Christmas movies. One was from the 70s, and then one was a remake from, I don't know, the early 2000s, and then I guess there's another one now. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I saw that trailer as well, and I don't know, man. It didn't really interest me, but we'll see as time gets closer. I mean, maybe by then I'll be saying, oh, man, we're doing nothing but reviewing Oscar-nominated independent films because 'tis the season, right? I mean, September, October,
right.
November, December is Oscar season,
Yeah, that's true.
But anyways, all right, Mike. Well, maybe we will do It Chapter 1 as part of your annual Harvest Horror Fest. Even though it's the podcast, it was, kind of your baby and your idea, so.
Oh, I still like it. I still love the name.
I'm not hating on it. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. But it's a month full of horror movies.
Yeah, I know. That's not your biggest ideal way to watch movies, but
no, I don't hate on it. You know my feelings. I've said it many, many times. I enjoy horror movies. I'm just not a diehard fan like you are. And I think if we could do maybe a couple that I'm a big fan of this year, granted last year we did a couple that both of us are very big fans of. I'm thinking of one in particular in the back of my head.
Oh, yeah? Which one?
Come on, Event Horizon.
Oh, okay. All right.
Love that movie. I love that movie.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then Cabin in the Woods, of course. I mean, both of us are very passionate about that.
Yeah. No, that's the one I actually thought you were thinking of. But I love Event Horizon as well.
I'm thinking maybe this year for Harvest Horror Fest, we finally get to the one I really would love to talk about. On top of Cabin in the Woods, Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think
we'll do Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead would be fun. And then if we can find it, one of my favorites is, it's the whole series, but we'll have to figure out which one. And I might have to watch American Horror Story for the very first time on FX because they're kind of doing a parody of it. But I love the Friday the 13th series. I always have.
Oh, I'm super excited. I haven't watched American Horror Story really that much, and they seem to be doing this one that is like a parody of camping and all that stuff. I want to watch it.
I really am very interested in it, and I literally have not watched American Horror Story more than maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and they're on like season 8 or 9 or something.
Yeah, there's been quite a few seasons. I think it's like 6, maybe 7. Yeah.
Anyways, maybe it's my, years of working at summer camps and Boy Scouts and all that stuff, but I've just always really enjoyed the Friday the 13th series. Anyway, so we can talk about that later. Mike, let's get to the meat and the potatoes. I'm going to give you the rundown for It Chapter 2.
All right, let's do it.
All right, it was directed by Andy Muschietti? Sounds right? I don't know.
Sure.
It's Italian. I don't think you pronounce the S, but oh well, whatever. It's written by Gary Dauberman, based on the novel by Stephen King. We all know who that is. If you don't, you should not be watching It Chapter 2. It stars, this is going to be a long one because there's a lot of them in here.
Yeah, just get the main adults and the kids, I would say.
Yeah, well, that's still a lot. I was just going to do the adults, but I'll do the kids too. All right, here we go. It's going to be a little bit. Bear with us. Jessica Chastain, James McAvoy, Bill Hader, Isaiah Mustafa, Jay Ryan, James Ransone, Andy Bean, Bill Skarsgård, Jaden Martell, Wyatt Oleff, Jack Dylan Grazer, Finn Wolfhard, Sophia Lillis, Chosen Jacobs, and Jeremy Ray Taylor.
Nailed it.
I don't know. I butchered some of those names, but, hopefully the podcast gods won't frown on us. All right, here's the storyline for It Chapter 2. 27 years after their first encounter with the terrifying Pennywise, the Losers Club has grown up and moved away until a devastating phone call brings them back. Okay, Mike, you go first. You're the horror person. Try not to spoil it too.
I was really anticipating this movie. I was excited to the first one that the one that they made in 2017 was really good. So I was expecting this one to be really good as well. And it was, for the most part. I guess my only complaints about some of it was the second one is really long. So the first one's 2 hours and 15 minutes. This one's 2 hours and 49 minutes. That's okay. But I felt like some of the stuff didn't need to happen in this one. They kind of went to a lot of different things to show some history that I don't know that we necessarily needed to have for some of the characters and some of the man, without trying to spoil it, it's hard. But
that's what she said.
I liked it. Yeah. No, I really did like this movie. It was good. I like both the movies. I think if you ask me which one I like better, I like the first one better. But should you see this in the theater? I kind of think so. It's really good, and I want you to be immersed in this. I don't want you to be able to pause it. I don't want you to go do something else. That's what I want. I want you to watch this movie.
Well, Mike, I echo a lot of your sentiments on this film. It definitely is way too long. There's a lot of things that could have been cut out. There were some choices made in this film that I didn't quite understand why they were in this film and not in the original film. There's some things I would have really liked to have seen without getting too specific, but I would have liked to have seen more of the adult side of the Losers Club, specifically where they are at now. You get a little taste of it, but you don't get a whole lot. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more. I would have liked to have seen a little bit less of them being separated. It was good. I agree. I think the original one is way better. This one was okay. It's definitely well worth a watch, especially in the theaters. The scares and the goriness and the horror side of It Chapter 2, I think, is a little bit more engrossing and a little bit more over the top in Chapter 2 than Chapter 1. But one thing that I can never let down, that it's granted, it's the novel and it's written and they're trying to stay true to the form and everything, but the first one is a bunch of kids dealing with Pennywise. I can't even imagine the nightmares and the madness and the craziness that went on in their heads. And now they're full-blown adults. It doesn't have the same kind of impact, even though the scares and the horror are definitely ramped up. It still doesn't hit like, a bunch of middle school kids trying to battle this thing.
Yeah, I think that's my feeling as well on this. Without getting into too much about what happens in the movie. Also, Matt, you emphasized this before. You even put this on the Facebooks. You actually 100% need to watch the first one before you watch the second one. Otherwise, you're not going to understand a lot of stuff. They really, really, really assume that you've seen the first one.
Well, what did I tell you, Mike? Basically, almost, I think I might have told you through a message before I even posted on our Facebook. What I told you, make sure you watch the first one again before you go and see it, Chapter 2.
Yeah, you did. And I purchased it through a online vendor and streamed it before I went and watched this again so I could make sure I was caught up. And that was definitely amazing advice because you need to do that. I almost feel like they should have offered this movie in like a double feature with the original there and, you know, and just charged you for the second one. I don't know.
Yeah, they did in some theaters. And that's a interesting thing, not to get too off topic, but there are rumors and speculation that there very well might be a supercut down the road, combining the two films into one and getting rid of a lot of the fluff and other things they don't need. And so taking two almost 6 hour long films and cutting it down to maybe 4.5 to 5 hours.
Well, I'm not necessarily saying they should cut a bunch of stuff, but I'm not, I mean, I guess against it. But there is a lot of stuff in some of the movies that I think maybe could be cut. I don't know. It depends on the flow. And the first one just had this amazing flow. And the second one has some stuff in there, and it's a little bit, I don't know. There's like a scene kind of towards the beginning in the first one with some guys who get harassed and stuff, and I'm not sure it needed to be there entirely like it was, but whatever. That's how it was.
Well, but on a supercut, especially if they're going to do a supercut, they got to cut something because you don't want to be sitting there for 6 hours. You know, 4 to 5 hours is, you know, even for a supercut is about the max you can do, you know? So they're going to cut, again, it's just rumors. I would personally love to see it happen, but who knows? We'll see. So, all right, Mike, well, I know you're having a real hard time not spoiling this, so let's go ahead and roll into it. I hope you looked it up. I'm sure it was probably pretty easy. Mike, how does It Chapter 2 relate to the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. So It Chapter 2, the art director, Nigel Churcher, also worked on Ant-Man as the supervising art director.
Well, all right. Mike, since you've been teasing the whole time, I know you're having a hard time. Let's go ahead and say, I recommend you go and see this in the theaters. Mike?
Oh, I absolutely recommend you see this in the theater, with the caveat that you need to have watched the It Chapter 1, or I think it's It Chapter 1, whatever the title of it is, the 2017 version of it first, within the last week or so before you go watch it.
Yeah, I'd say at maximum a week, because there's just so many characters in this film. And then when it rolls into It Chapter 2 and you're used to all these characters and these kids and now they're adults, it really can get really confusing really fast. So that's why one of the many reasons why I suggest definitely see it at least that week you go to watch It Chapter 2.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
All right, Mike, go ahead. Let's spoil it.
All right, so I like this quite a bit, but for me, the adult stuff, like you were hinting at, Matt, was, I don't know. it didn't seem as scary, or I don't know, I don't know. I don't know how to. It just didn't seem as real, I guess. Kind of. I don't know. Like the kids dealing with the stuff seems so real to me, but now that they're adults, it seems very odd. And then the whole memory thing. I know that's part of the story where they can't really remember. And I did enjoy when. The Michael character is calling all the people and saying, "Hey, I need you guys to come back to the Losers Club. We have a problem." And everyone just kind of like freaks out. Like the one character vomits, the other character kills himself. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, well, and I think it started out really strong and it slowly started to fizzle towards the middle, and then at the end it ramped up. I liked all of that. I wish we could have seen more about, I mean, it's been 27 years. You know, I wish we could have seen a little bit more about these kids and them growing up and what they became and how they got there and things like that and how long they've been gone from Derry. But then they roll into the middle part where they're back in the world of the first film where they're reflecting things that happened in the first film. It's like, why didn't they do that in the first film and not have the reflection? It's just, it kind of kept taking me out of the movie. And here they are, they're supposed to be back in the Losers Club and together and kicking ass, and we're going to take on Pennywise and we're going to win. And they spend a large majority of the movie on their own, doing their own flashback stories. It's just, it's not what I expected.
Yeah, I think something that was a little odd to me was there's some scenes in this kind of hideout, or what would you call it, like a fort or
it's
something.
Like a clubhouse, the underground little clubhouse thing, right?
Yeah. I don't know why that wasn't in the first movie, because it seemed like it should be in the first movie, because then that would have made all this stuff a lot easier. But maybe they just wanted to get it shorter, or maybe they didn't have. I don't know. That there are, like you said, Matt, there's some scenes and there's some things where so most of the characters in the first movie, in chapter 1, we saw got harassed by Pennywise independently, except for like 1 or 2. Well, in this movie, they show their harassments in this, and you're like, well, why didn't we have that in the first one?
Right. And that's one of those things that bothered me, is I think it should have been in the first one, specifically because it deals with the kids. You know, it's not dealing with them as adults, it's with them as kids. I understand having the flashbacks and explaining and things like that, but I mean, there's some sequences where it's a flashback where it goes on for 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, no, it was long. I don't know what the approach, the reasoning why, because I feel like some of the stuff was filmed back then. I don't know.
Some of it was, some of it wasn't. I had a difficult time telling when they CG'd the kids, but they did CG them a handful of times throughout this film, because kids grow up fast and they are a lot different now. It's only been 3 or 4 years, but for kids, that's a jump, man. Like Finn Wolfhard, the dude from Stranger Things, he's like really tall now compared to when he was a kid. So,
oh, well, yeah. I mean, even in Stranger Things Season 3, he's like huge.
Right. And so they had to CG the living crap out of him. They had to do it to all the kids on the scenes that they shot for this film. But it didn't bother me. I really didn't notice much. I noticed some here and there, but not a whole lot. For the most part, I think they were pretty successful on their special effects of de-aging young kids.
I don't know how long or how much money it costs to do all the CG stuff, but like it seems odd that this took 2 years to come out from the like I would have thought this would have been out 1 year later.
Well, I'm not sure if they filmed them at the same time like they did with Avengers.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was my next question. I didn't know if they filmed it at the same time.
I would doubt it. I'm not sure. I think probably what they did, again, I have no evidence to back any of this up. This is just me guessing, but I'm thinking they probably were seeing how audiences reacted to the original one if they were going to do a sequel or not. But they did have the teaser, It Chapter 2, at the end of the first one.
Now, Matt, since we're in spoilers, and I'm just going to do it. What did you think of Stephen King's cameo?
I liked it, but it was really long and really kind of drawn out for kind of no point. James McAvoy went in there and bought his old bike, and it was like a 5 or 6 or 7 minute long scene. I don't know.
Do you think? So I guess with that, you think he approves of these sequels? Like, I always wonder, because I feel like Stephen King hates a lot of the movies that are made about his work, his books. Do you think that means he approved this one? Like, he liked it, or?
I would think so, yeah. Especially if he has a cameo in it, I would think he at least got, maybe not so much the sequel, but I think he must have liked the original for him to have a small bit part in the sequel.
Yeah, I would say I was definitely surprised to see him in it, and I thought that was cool.
No, I liked it. I thought it was great.
I liked the first one a lot, and then the second one, not as much, but it's still really good. Like, on a whole, the two movies are really good. It just, I didn't like this one quite as much, and there's not 100% thing that I can point that's wrong with it. It just, maybe... to me, I guess I really like the kids' pieces. And as they're adults, it wasn't as... I don't know. It didn't flow as well, or I don't know. There's something to it. But, that's just me. So
back on Stephen King, historically, everybody knows, or should know, that he really disliked Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. That's where that comes from, of Stephen King always saying, or people always saying, Stephen King doesn't like the films that are done after his books. I love The Shining. It's probably one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I really enjoyed that film. But I'm a huge Stanley Kubrick fan as well. So I don't know. I know it's drastically different than the novel, but it's still a great movie.
Are you excited about Dr. Sleep?
Yes, I am.
With the yeah.
I really am, especially, my boy's in it. So that'll be cool.
Oh, Ewan McGregor?
Yep.
And what Star Wars movie is he in?
I don't remember. He's in one of them. And maybe having some kind of TV show or another movie or something coming out too. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
See, I'm trying not to talk about it, Mike. I'm trying not to talk about how excited I am that they're doing a Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I was trying to push you a little bit, so I'm going to back off.
It's going to be amazing. Although I'm really looking forward to The Mandalorian. Disney Plus, just take it all. Just take it all, damn it.
All right, Matt, so to not get too distracted with all that stuff, I do want to ask you one question, Matt. What are you drinking?
Wow, Mike, that is a question you have not asked in a very long time, because I figured you're just tired and falling asleep, and I don't know what the deal is. But, Mike, I am going back to my roots because I'm broke. As always, Miller High Life, the champagne of beers.
Awesome, Matt.
So, what IPA is on tap today?
Oh, Matt, you're so right. So I'm drinking Goose Island IPA. Nothing fancy, but it's an IPA. As always, you were right.
See, Mike, do you think the reason why you drink so many IPAs is because your life is splendid and going great and can't be any better that you got to add a little bit of bitterness into it?
I've never looked at it like that, but yeah, sure.
And then my life is the opposite. It's nothing but bitterness. And so I need to add everything else into it through my alcohol.
Oh, okay. So you're always going for sweet stuff. So you want your sweet, different, like just something very nice.
I wouldn't call Miller High Life sweet, but all right.
Well, I don't know, man. I'm just trying.
I know. Okay, Mike. Well, let's do it. I know we can sit here and talk about It Chapter 2 and really break it down a lot, more than we already have, but I don't think we should. We need to stop making people anxious. And Mike, how many reels do you give It Chapter 2?
All right, man. I'm going to break from the mold a little bit. I'm going to give It Chapter 2 3 out of 5 reels, but I want to give It Chapter 1 4 out of 5 reels, just so everyone knows where I stand on both of them.
Well, good, because I'm only putting the notes for the 1 on there, so you're not getting number 4 on there. I'm just going to edit completely out, so sorry.
All right.
No, I'll leave it in there. Now I have to give you mine. I'll give It Chapter 2 3.5 reels out of 5. It is definitely not as good as the original. The acting, especially by some of the adults like Bill Hader, James McAvoy, Jessica Chastain, was fantastic. I think Bill Hader is probably the shining star out of all of it. He was really, really good. He is just stepping it up. I don't know if you watch Barry on HBO at all, but he is absolutely incredible in that show. It just ended season 2 not long ago. Well worth a watch if you enjoyed his acting in It Chapter 2. He's a lot more serious and dramatic in Barry. And I guess I probably should give my It Chapter 1, or just It from 2017, rating as well, since you did too, Mike.
Sorry, Matt.
I wasn't prepared for this, Mike. But I also give the original a 4 out of 5 reels.
Nice.
All right, so what else you got?
I don't know, Matt. What are we gonna review next week? Have you even thought about it? What are you thinking?
I have not opened up the what's in theaters. I know we were talking about Peanut Butter Falcon. I went and saw it. I don't know if you did. I got real lucky when I went and saw it too. It was pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'd be interested in doing Peanut Butter Falcon.
Well, I remember you were going to try and see if it was even in town.
It is in town now, so I think I got it when you guys got it. I think I could try and watch that next week, because I don't think there's anything of note coming out next week.
I don't see anything. There's Hustlers, but I have no interest in seeing that.
Oh, come on, Matt. You know you want to see some strippers.
Well, yeah, but I mean, seriously, you really think J-Lo is gonna Julia Stiles, any of those? No, I don't think so.
All right.
Well, the other thing is we do need to start knocking off our requests, man, because they're just rolling in. People are asking, Mike. And we talked about it. I talked about it a while back. I don't know if you have Hulu, but now might be the time to get Hulu, because Demolition Man is on Hulu, and that was going to be one of our requests that I brought up most recently.
Oh, man, I haven't seen that in so long. I would love to see that. Yeah, maybe we should do that one. Maybe we should do 2 next week. I don't know.
We always say we're trying to do 2, but it has not happened yet. Peanut Butter Falcon, I did see it, and I got to see it at night for $5. It was Harkins Theater's 86th anniversary, and all the movies for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of that Labor Day weekend were $5. So I thought that was pretty sweet that I got to see Peanut Butter Falcon for $5.
Oh, man, that is really sweet. 86 years, man. That's awesome.
So, all right, Mike. Well, go try and see that. It's a decent movie. I was expecting something a little bit different, but I enjoyed it. It was good. It's worth a watch. I don't know about worth a watch in theaters for everyone, but it was entertaining. It is very pulls at the heartstrings. It's a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be, but definitely worth a watch. Just not sure it's worth the theater watch. So let's try and do that, and let's definitely do Demolition Man.
All right, Demolition Man and Peanut Butter Falcon. All right,
Mike. Well, you have anything else you want to add for our nice, fine listeners?
No, Matt. I guess why don't you take us out of here since I did the intro?
But before that, let's do this, Mike. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, tell your friends. Try and help us grow the pod. If you have a few minutes, go on iTunes, or what do they call it on the iPhones now, Mike? It's the Podcasts app or something, right?
Yeah, there's a podcast app.
Yeah, go on there on your iPhones or your Apple devices or whatever the hell you're using and leave us a review, because that is really where it helps us out the most, is on the iTunes Apple world, because they're kind of still the kings of podcasts. And if you leave us a review, you give us a rating, it helps other people see our show pop up in their feeds. Then maybe they'll listen, maybe they'll subscribe, maybe they'll like it. So at the minimum, do that for us. That helps us out a ton. So other than that, thanks everybody for listening. We will chat at you on the next pod.
Thank you for listening to The Real Film Nerds. Now don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Real Film Nerds. Now go out and catch a movie.